Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wattsburg Area School District, where we are student-centered and future-focused for a world-class education. The board work session of June 12, 2023 is now called to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Burlingham.
Here.
Mrs. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Hetherington.
Here.
Mrs. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Mattson.
Here.
Mr. Morvay.
Here.
Mrs. Pound.
Here.
Dr. Pushcheck.
Here.
Mr. Blazer.
Present. Thank you. Please note that the board met in an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss our annual safety and security plan, our superintendent evaluation, and personnel recommendations. The chair recognizes Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Ken Berlin, for school reports. Will we have school reports next week?
We will not have school reports. I don't believe there's going to be students available.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is guest citizen comments. We don't have anyone that has signed up to speak to the board this evening. The chair recognizes Dr. Ken Berlin for a superintendent's report.
I have no report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Ms. Vicki Bendig, the business administrator, for her financial report.
For this evening, treasurer's report, general fund, cash in the bank, as of May 31st, 2023, $6,790,651.21. And in capital projects, as of May 31st, $497,897.18. And the cafeteria fund, as of the end of May, has $731,287.73. We have Exhibit A1 is the bill list, checks written between the last board meeting and this evening, totaling $667,943.30. And the Seneca High School Activity Fund, Exhibit D, has $83,976.03 in those accounts collectively. I will have the rest of the reports prepared for next week.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Bendig regarding her report? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for your consideration. Thank you, Mrs. Bendig. There's one item on the agenda under legal advisement for next week, LA1, a ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between the Wattsburg Area School District and the Wattsburg Education Support Personnel Association. Is there any questions or discussion on the item under legal advisement?
Just a comment to the board. I talked to the local UNISERV rep today, or actually I emailed him, and he confirmed that they will be voting to ratify the tentative agreements this coming Saturday. So assuming it's approved there, then we'll know when it's time for the board to consider approval, if it's been approved by them or not.
And we'll hear more detail about that in our executive session following this meeting. That item will be on our agenda next week for consideration. The chair recognizes Mr. Steve Morvay for finance.
Mr. President, there will be a total of currently 9 items that will be under the finance agenda for next week. The first one is a budgetary transfer, as noted from committed to a different committed fund for paving and concrete projects, as noted under F1. Under F2 would be adoption of the proposed general fund budget 23-24. As noted and has been published and has been available for inspection, as well as item number F3 to approve the real property tax resolution as noted under the millage, as noted in the body of the article, as well as F4, which would be a per capita tax to allow Wattsburg Area School District to levy per capita tax as noted in the body of the article, as well as Act 511, the per capita tax under F5, which would be the school board is allowed to enact a per capita tax as noted. Additionally, under F6, there's an earned income tax resolution to approve the earned income tax resolution as noted in the body as well, given the calendar year and the dates as noted. Also under item F7, there'll be a realty transfer tax, that the school board enacts a realty transfer tax, levied as noted in the body of the article, as well as there's also a F8, local services tax, that the Wattsburg Area School District allows to engage in the levy of that tax as well. And then item under F9, which is the Act 1 exclusion resolution, which is the Homestead Farmstead Act as outlined. Those will be the 9 items currently on the agenda for next week, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any question or discussion on the items under finance?
Mr. President, if you don't mind, I will just announce to the board that I will be out of town next week, so I will not be attending the next board meeting. I will say, for whatever that it's worth, on the budget and the various tax items here that we've just described, I appreciate the administrative's efforts and their business team putting together the budget that they have. I appreciate that we did not go up to even our allowable tax increase. Appreciate that. A 3.39% increase, I recall, is certainly an achievement in regarding of the current climate that we are all in, with inflation being much higher than that, almost to the double of that nationwide. So I do appreciate again, the administrative teams and their efforts in keeping that down as well. So if I was here, I would vote for the board, for the budget, as well as for the other items under the F4, for whatever that's worth. Those are my comments going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Morvay. And since you won't be here, we'll be looking for someone to read all those resolutions in their entirety. Anybody that has saved their voice all year.
I was going to ask not to pinch hit for him next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morvay.
Andy already volunteered.
The chair recognizes Mr. Sean Mattson for Building and Grounds.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I will have 2 items as of right now under Buildings and Grounds for next week. B1, the paving and concrete project that will be listed as below, and B2, the snow removal agreement, which is outlined below, and that's all I will have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion on those items under Buildings and Grounds? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for your consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mattson. The chair recognizes. Sure, go ahead, Mrs. Pop.
Is Nelson who we had last year too? That's what I thought, okay.
The chair recognizes Ms. Nicole Lee for Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to beat Mr. Morvay's number of items because we are anticipating 12 items next week. So they will include P1 ESS substitute additions, P2 resignations, P3 appointments, P4 summer appointments, P5 conference requests as listed, P6 the superintendent performance evaluation, P7 tuition reimbursement, P8 MOA college and high school, P9 the entire page of attendance at meetings, flip the page, P10 job descriptions as listed, P11 Act 93 agreements, and P12 the WASD organizational charts.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee. Is there any questions or discussion on the items under Personnel? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for consideration. The chair recognizes Ms. Amanda Farrell for Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. My list is much, much shorter. I have one item, a PL1. It'll be the second reading of the policies, to approve the second reading of the following policies as outlined below.
Thank you. Is there any question or discussion on those items under Policy? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for consideration. Thank you, Ms. Farrell. The chair recognizes Dr. Andy Pushak for Curriculum.
Thank you, Mr. President. 4 items for the board's consideration next week. C1, the Caring Place Agreement. C2, Refocus Classroom Program. C3, the SAP Mental Health Agreement. And C4, the Safe Academy for Everyone Program. Those 4 items for next week, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any question or discussion on those items under Curriculum? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for your consideration. Thank you, Dr. Pushak.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes Ms. Leah Hetherington for Technology.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I win the award for the most items. Actually, none for me this week.
That's right. We're saving your voice for next week.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Hetherington. The chair recognizes Ms. Brittany Burlingham for Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will have 2 items under transportation next week. T1, transportation requests, as listed below, and T2, transportation for the SAFE program, also as listed below. And as of now, that is all I will have.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or question on the items under transportation? Hearing none, those items will be on our agenda next week for your consideration. Thank you, Mrs. Burlingham. The chair recognizes Ms. Tara Pound.
Thank you. For next week, I have 4, AE1, the volunteer list, AE2, the extracurricular appointments, AE3, athletic appointments. Can I actually see the attachment, because I did not have time to look at it today? Okay. And then AE4 game help list, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any question or discussion on the items under athletic and extracurricular?
Mr. President,
Dr. Pushek?
I just wanted to draw the board's attention to extracurricular appointments, the robust amount of extra items that we have to serve our students and families is very impressive. It's a very impressive list. Without a lot of those extra opportunities for our students, it wouldn't be quite the well-rounded education that we provide for them and their families. So I just wanted the board to take note of the 2 pages that we have at all 3 of our schools to provide extra items for our students that I know other school districts do not. So I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. Do you have something else?
I do have something. I was wondering by chance if we were able to, in the very near future, bring back Mr. Englert and Mr. Carter to give us a report on how everything is going with the athletic revampment that he was working on.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no other items, hearing no other questions, those items will be on our agenda next week for consideration. Thank you, Mrs. Pound. Let me see, I have it right. Yes, there's 2 items on the agenda under miscellaneous for next week. M1, which is our Erie County Enhanced Screening Agreement, and then M2, which is our agreement with the Pyramid Healthcare System. Is there any question or discussion on those items under miscellaneous? Hearing none, those will be on our agenda next week for consideration. Mr. Morvay won't be here, so I'm assuming we won't have an Erie County Technical School report next week?
Unless you'll entertain a report today,
Sure, we will.
if there's some objection. We're down at the other end of the table.
Opening a can.
It's a little out of sorts. This will be brief. I will have, this again was for the May board meeting at the Erie County Technical School, and we did have one student that was a student of the month in April, Hannah Devine, who just had graduated. She was in the art and design for business, so that's a recognition that we do need to highlight, as well as a couple of items that were at the technical school. There were a couple of items that called the Perkins Grant. There's a Perkins review that they recognized that a couple of the items that the students in the tech school were deficient is a strong word, but we'll just say not meeting their standard of proficiency. And their current process of remediating that is working with the districts, providing then individualized instructions going forward. I believe, Dr. Berlin, you were briefed on that in the superintendent's report. So I wanted to bring that to the board just as an awareness that that is ongoing at the tech school. Also, on the flip side, though, the NOCD testing that the students have achieved in the written portion, 97% were showed up as competent or advanced, and 86% in the practical testing side, seniors now, were either competent or advanced. And again, the NOCD is a third-party standard and curriculum assessment for tech schools, so that was that's a positive in their cap as well. Construction schedule, construction items that are complete, the administration and the HR departments are now done. Business offices are scheduled to be done at the middle of this month, and that the South Addition will be ready for the fall. And then there's obviously continuing more items that are happening this summer and then in the fall through the rest of the calendar year. Graduation did occur back on the 31st of May. And in the 2022-23, just as a recollection, we sent 60 students to the tech school. There were 763 students overall. Next year, they are expecting more than 350 new students. Obviously, students have graduated and additional students are coming back in. So the recruitment efforts are doing very, very well. And then also back to the construction side, our contingency balance for the construction project is in very, very good shape, as well as the fixtures, furnishing, and equipment. That contingency balance is also very strong, with the project as being 80% billed at this point. So I know you recall that the new cosmetology renovations were being funded via the contingency. Certainly, it looks at this point that the contingency will be able to absorb those costs, assuming the pricing will come in within the budgeted amount that we set previously in previous months. That has yet to come through yet, so those are items that's unknown at this point. So
they are bidding out that portion?
They are bidding that portion to the original contractors via a change order, which can be accepted or rejected, depending on where the numbers come in at, and move forward along those lines. So that is my report. I appreciate the board's indulgence this evening.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the board? Hearing none, will we have a Northwest Intermediate Unit report next week, Dr. Pushak?
Yes, I'll have a report next week, Mr. President.
Thank you. That brings us to board correspondence and dialogue. Anything from the board this evening? Mrs. Burlingham?
I do. I just have a couple comments. One, I do have to say that I am super appreciative and excited to see all the stuff our district's doing with collaborating with other providers for mental health, between like Pyramid and SAP and the Caring Place, just to ensure our families are having resources, not only for the kids but for the families. That's super exciting, because we know it takes a village for all that stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then also, I did have to say, I had the privilege to attend the first graduation ceremony, which I thought was really awesome to be a part of. I love watching Tara and Steve be able to be a part of that with their own kids too. So that was a pretty great experience that I felt like I just wanted to share that I appreciated being a part of. It was beautiful, and it brought happy tears to me. So, that was really it for me. So.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Burlingham.
Mr. President, I would just like to echo the same remarks. I attended Seneca High School graduation, and we're 3 for 3 for outdoor turf ceremonies. Beautiful, wonderful weather. I also was able to attend the 4th grade graduation. I sat next to Mrs. Farrell, and she and I were discussing that the 4th grade teachers care way too much about their kids. I mean, it was very evident how caring that they are and how they build relationships with their students and to move them forward socially, emotionally, academically. Amanda was crying, I wasn't. But,
Totally fair.
I was right there with you too.
You're crying, I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm very sad to be done at the elementary school.
That was very, very nice concluding academic ceremonies to recognize our students and their milestones.
Mrs. Hetherington?
How come we don't do anything for the 8th grade?
Didn't you attend the ceremony at Cedar Point?
Yes, I did.
Thankfully not involved in that. I'm just curious, because we do one for
Well, there is an award ceremony per grade. I attended the 8th grade.
You're talking about the honors?
Yes,
That's
correct.
different than.
They don't have a graduation
Not
ceremony,
truly as a
though.
graduation, yes, that's
They don't
right.
have a graduation.
Yeah.
I figure by the time they're in 8th grade, they're like, get the heck out of here. No reward,
They're
just
so
get,
blasé,
just
they
get.
don't really care, yeah.
We just don't.
Oh, Brittany has something else, but I was.
I'm so sorry. I had one more thing, just because I do know, our 7th graders had gone on a Niagara Falls trip, and there was all the stuff going on with the fires, and I also feel like I appreciated how well the staff and administration kind of kept us updated on like making sure that they were still moving forward, that it was safe for our kids to go, because there was a lot of concerns around that, and I think people did a really good job of just making sure that we were feeling relieved that it was safe to send their children, and they had a great time, clearly. So that was just another thing I felt was important to say. Great job with them keeping us updated, giving us access to the weather so that we just knew.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mattson, did you have something?
I did, along with everything that they were talking about as well with our teachers and the wonderful district that we are in currently with the send-off that we had this summer. Put us on the charts, and let me tell you, it was amazing.
Yes.
Just seeing everybody there, the things that we did and how fast it has grown in 2 years. Kudos to everybody involved. They did an amazing job, and thank you.
We're the envy of all the other districts.
We are, and
I mean, it was a cool event.
We did set the bar high.
set the bar high on that, and I say kudos to everybody. I'm just
great.
speechless on how amazing, how everybody came together. We were all one big happy family. The bonfire was a little hot. The fireworks were amazing, let me tell you, the whole half-hour show. That was great. I mean, yeah, kudos to Mr. Schultz for everything that you guys do on the behind scenes and everything like that, just to clean up our mess and all that kind of good stuff. Kudos to everybody.
And our
Especially
firefighters
when
who
you
kept
came
us
into
safe.
toilet paper the day of.
Oh, yeah, the senior pranks.
I just want to also props to the 8th grade teachers for undergoing that trip. I know I have an 8th grader, they're not easy, so especially Mr. Ward, good job. Good job bringing them all home safe.
Mr. President, I just have one last thing, for me anyways. As a father of a recent graduate now,
You're old.
I can certainly see we have a good district. We really do. And I think us as board members really should be championing that throughout whoever we see. And I know we probably do, but I do want to reiterate that there's, whether it's a function of support services, as Brittany mentions, or whether it's sports, or whether it's academics, or whether it's facilities, or whether it's administrative team, or whether it's, we have a good district. And we need to be proud of that, and we need to celebrate that. And I certainly think that, we stand against anybody that, if they want to compare districts, I believe. And I certainly think that, it's obviously, there's obviously, effort equals results and other things that are involved as well. But the environment, the table is set for success if students and people want to be part of that. And I certainly think that we appreciate the opportunity. We have equal opportunity to succeed. So I do notice, I wanted to say that.
Thank you, I concur.
I have a couple of things I'm allowed to talk, or are we out of
You
time?
are, go for it.
So I'll just kind of keep echoing what everyone else was saying, but going to the extracurricular appointments, I think Owen had the opportunity to participate in a Virathon. I thank the administration for allowing them to do things like that and try out in the classroom. I think those are awesome opportunities to allow our students to experience, just different things. And as little as it may seem, thank you for supporting them with pizza at the Envirathon. And it was really interesting to hear the comments on it about like how appreciative the students there were of the school. I'm like, what did everybody else eat? They're like brown bag lunches, so like that meant a lot to them. And as little as it is, I appreciate that. And, the time that was put in by the staff to get them ready for that. And then also the 4th grade field trip, the 7th grade field trip, thank you for allowing them to continue to take part in these. The 4th grade field trip, the 4th grade teachers did a great job of, organizing all of that. The students had an awesome time at the History Museum. I was a little concerned of how it was going to be being with a group of 4th grade girls there, and we could have used more time. So that was awesome. So thank you for that. The 7th graders going to Niagara Falls, a lot of them have never been there. Those are opportunities they may not otherwise have. So thank you for allowing them those opportunities. And as Andy said, the 4th grade graduation, when you have, teachers standing up here getting truly emotional, telling you how much they appreciate your child, when you have the acting principal not being able to get through his written speech that he had because he had tears in his eyes, it shows you the true compassion that this district and this school has for our children. And so for that, thank you to the administration for, giving them what they need to make that happen.
Thank you. Anybody else? I just want to remind,
I just wanted to say it's a team
Feeling a little
effort.
emotional.
Everybody's eyes sweating, there's a lot of sweating.
I'll remind everyone that we'll meet again in executive session following this meeting to talk about the recent local two tentative agreements, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, push check.
Carol, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We are adjourned.